Good morning, it is Colin Clapp here from Online Marketing Done For You and Parenting Passports and Profits. How are you today? So yes, it's Tech Tuesday where I am in Hoi An in Vietnam. And today I wanted to talk about passwords, because passwords was not even a problem I thought I had until recently. I kind of knew in the back of my mind I could be doing it better. But I thought I had it under control. So if you're like me, you will have quite a lot of passwords knocking around for various entities and they could be for personal use or professional use. But the more you are online, the more passwords you will probably have. And we have a lot of online tools, and so a lot of online presence, and that is a lot of passwords. And for a number of years I have been an Evernote user. Now I'll cover Evernote because Evernote probably could cover a whole month of Tech Tuesdays, if not longer, as a productivity tool. So I'm not going to touch on Evernote, other than I've been using it for a number of years, got loads of notes, I mean thousands of notes, and but my password lists were probably my go-to, well, definitely one of my go-to lists, and I had them saved in shortcuts. And I guess this is probably like you probably got something like that. So that's how I was handling it. What was happening was, I don't know if you've noticed, but the paranoia part I'm kind of referring to is that as the years have rolled by, you may have noticed that passwords are getting more, the providers of these online services, you know, whether it's banking or any of the tools you use, the actual providers, many of them, if not all, are making their passwords more and more secure. So, you know, if you were like me in the old days, you probably had one memorable password that you used and probably related to some friends and family or some event, and you use that for everything, and maybe some slight variations, and that's certainly what I did, and they evolved. But more and more providers, they want you to use characters and uppercase and lowercase, and as the years roll by, it was getting harder and harder to manage which variation of my password I was using for which entity. So the online world, and certainly the finance industry, you know, they're very paranoid about security, and rightly so. People are very paranoid about privacy, and rightly so. And passwords is one of those areas where if you don't get it right, I don't want to say right, but if you don't get it effective, you can stumble. So yeah, you certainly can't use certain passwords with certain providers, and some remember your old passwords and won't let you use those again. So this paranoia around security and being able to use different characters, I kind of evolved a little bit with the uppercase and lowercase, and kind of separated out my memorable password to a couple of different ones that could be spread across business and personal interest. But even then, it was still getting harder and harder, and my Evernote lists were getting longer and longer, and that you know, that's where the problem was starting. The problems were starting to manifest. I was creating more and more lists to try and manage them. They made sense to me, these lists, but they didn't necessarily make sense to anyone else, and that's where the productivity comes in. So these lists, you know, in uppercase, lowercase, and because I was using something that was memorable to me, as I was sharing these lists with other people, and I guess this, I'll come back to the difference between sharing and not sharing in just a minute, but having lots of passwords in lots of different lists is a problem in itself. and managing them all when you sometimes find they're cross-related. If you've stuck them in a different list, then you're sometimes not quite sure, especially where they are, especially if this is a tool you only use occasionally. So like everyone else, we have some tools that we might use daily, and if they're not every day, they're a few times a week. There's some tools we use weekly, there's some tools we use monthly, and there's some tools we use on an ad hoc basis. And depending on how frequently we want to use those tools, then how often we need to get to those passwords emphasizes how big a problem or how productive we're going to be. So let me get on to the productivity. So as the password list were getting longer and longer, it was harder and harder to... actually, let me backtrack just for a second, because I want to share something with you around productivity. And I'm very thankful to an old friend of mine. I haven't seen her for a number of years. Her name eludes me, Lisa. If I remember, I'll give her due credit. But she wrote a blog a number of years ago, and I've never forgotten it. And this is very, very important around productivity and time saving. And that is 10 minutes a day. If you can save 10 minutes a day in your life, do you know what that equals? Over a year, 10 minutes a day. What that is equal to is 1 40-hour week. Think about that. How much faffing around goes on in your day that could last 10 minutes? Now, I'm not being judgmental. I'm just trying to say, where do you lose a few minutes that you could regain with some more effective processes? Because if you can find a few minutes that add up to 10 minutes, that equals a whole week of freedom. And that's every day. So if you can get more than 10 minutes, then you can get 2 weeks. If you can get 30 minutes, you can get 3 weeks. What would it be worth to you to have an extra 3 weeks of time to do things that you love doing? Being with your family, surfing, skiing, mountain biking, playing golf, swimming, reading, massage, meditation, all those things, 10 minutes a day. So I share that because I am quite passionate about finding shortcuts. And if I can if I can shave a few minutes here and there off of a process, especially if it's a repeatable one, I'm up for it, because that's what it means to me. It means more freedom. So I don't trivialize. When people say, oh, it only takes me a minute, if you're saying that to everything, then that's a lot of time being lost. And if you would prefer to be searching around for, in this case, I'm talking about passwords. So if you want to be searching around for passwords, and you're happy to suck up the couple of minutes, but if you're doing that every day, that could add up over time, and that's time you're not spending with your family, your friends, your children, your hobbies. So that's the mindset, and I'm coming at this from a productivity point of view. So yeah, so I started to realize that just for myself, it was taking up some time to find my passwords. And that got escalated the more we outsource work. So if we need anyone to do anything for us and they need access to our tools, I would pass them my passwords, but I had everything written in coded format. So I knew what it meant, but I was kind of giving them a coded version, and they didn't necessarily understand that. And so then there'd be this back and forth. Is that a lowercase bar, or is that is it meant to have a hashtag on the end, or I don't understand that character thing. So all I was trying to do is avoid giving them the actual password, because I was paranoid about someone finding my lists and copying all my passwords. And I thought this kind of coded version that I would use would avoid people seeing my actual password. Anyway, so it got worse as I wanted to share my passwords. And I'm very grateful that a couple of months ago, when I was, we took on board a new outsourcer who was more technically orientated, and she pushed back and said, have you considered LastPass. And LastPass it is a password authenticator app, tool, call it what you want, that generates secure passwords for you so that you don't have to remember passwords. Now, I just thought it was going to be really complicated, and I had my lists under control, or under control enough. And I just resisted going down this route for a number of years. I kind of knew it existed, but I just put it off. But at the time she pushed back, she told me it was free. You can get a password authenticator for free, and she was using one called LastPass. I said, if you can make this really easy, and it's free, and I don't have to do anything, set it up for me. So that's what she did. She set it up for me, and it was only when she set it up and shared back the first password requirement that I realised how easy it was, and that I really could take responsibility and claim ownership of it. And so it was easy. So the premise is you have effectively this tool can go on all your devices. So it doesn't matter whether you're using a mobile phone, a tablet, or a desktop computer, laptop, etc. It tends to plug in on a laptop. It's a Chrome extension, but I think it's also an extension to a couple of other things. So, and then there's an app on Android and an app on iOS. So, and of course they all talk to each other, so your passwords are being spread across. Now I was achieving that with Evernote, but I had to go in and look for it. But it's a pretty simple tool, and what happens, all that happens is when you log into any of your apps or your services online, so whether that's personal, whether you log into Netflix or your online banking tool, or whether you log into WordPress or Canva, or the millions of online tools that are out there, when you log in, the little app sits in the background and goes, oh, do you want us to remember that password for you? And so you log in with your passwords that you've got memorized, and LastPass starts accumulating them, and it takes over the management so that you don't have to go into your list to look for them, because you can kind of bring them up at the login screen just by clicking on it sits inside the login box, where it says put your username and password. It sits inside there as well, so you can click on it and then just go fill, and you haven't got to remember. So it's really powerful. It's at the point, it's a tool that is serving you at the point you need it, rather than you having to go off and look for it. And that's what productivity is about, making sure that you've got what you need where you need it. So yeah, that all adds up to your, saving your 10 minutes a day. So then what happens is the tool sees your passwords and is clever enough to know that you're using the same password across different tools or variations, and it prompts you to up your game. And all that means is it will provide you with a secure password, and then you can go through the change your password process. And now LastPass has got a secure version, and you don't have to remember it anymore. So what has happened to my lists is I've just said to our team of outsourcers, if you're still referring to that list, you might be locked out now, because it's pointless me trying to keep up with all these cryptic passwords. That's what the tool is doing for you. So now I am not wasting headspace on trying to manage passwords. And everything I've just described to you up to this point is free. So you don't need, excuse me, you don't need to be paying for this better management of your passwords. Where it moves into premium territory, which I now do have, and is if you need to share, and you don't want them to have the password. So Yeah, so it's in the sharing. So I can go into LastPass, choose one of the tools I'm working with, share the login with whoever I wanted to share it with, and they get the login and the password, but they can't read the password unless I decide to show them. It just LastPass does the work and logs them in at their end. And so let me just explain that. From their end, it's free. If you want to share your passwords in this way, you need the premium version. Now, what happened is I got given a share link, and so I was given the premium version for 30 days free trial, and got sucked into the sharing. But you know what? At the end of it, I was like, this is so powerful. I've got half a dozen different team members that we use on an ad hoc basis, all using this tool now. And when I found out how much it was like ridiculous. It was $40, $40 a year, $40 a year. It's like the amount of time I was wasting trying to manage the passwords. It's like $40 a year. This is crazy. Take my money. So yeah, signed up for the paid version, the premium version of LastPass, and I've now been a very happy user, and literally migrating every single password as I use it, as I log into something. I just let LastPass take over, and my passwords are getting stronger and stronger. And they do a little security audit across all your passwords and tell you whether you've got duplicate passwords and whether you could do something about it, and how you fare in this sort of security state. So, okay, that was probably a bit longer than I anticipated for today's Tech Tuesday. But if passwords is a problem for you, managing them, keeping up with the security issues around them, sharing them with team members, and you're not using some kind of password authenticator tool, there are plenty out there. I don't know the names of the others. But yeah, password authenticator tools, I've been converted, big thumbs up. And let me know whether you use one, what your thoughts are, whether you make good use of them, have they helped you be more productive, do you feel more secure, etc., etc. And which tools do you use? Do you have any recommendations that people could follow? So, okay, that is Tech Tuesday for today. I'm Colin Clapp from Online Marketing Done For You and Parenting Passports and Profits, and I'll see you next time. Take care now. Bye-bye.